This video, what I'm going to do is look at creating a file, and I'm going to import a bitmap. Board is 12 inches long, 5 1/4 high, and 0.75 thick. And I'm going to go off the center. That's usually where I go off of. Sometimes I go off this left corner, but most of the time I do the center. That way, if your measurements are off, it's still centered in the board. So, what next? Well, I want to import a bitmap. How do I do that? See, that says trace bitmap. I want to import a bitmap. See that bird right there? If you look up in these files, you'll find one that looks like a bird. See it right there? Import a bitmap. So I click on it. I think I have one on a flash drive that I took a picture of. Let's see if that's it. Nope, that's not it. Let's try it again. We can do edit undo and that'll go away. Import bitmap. Let's see if my device is showing up. Unplug it, plug it in again. Try it once more time. There it is. The cruiser. Import a bitmap. How's that one? The beauty of that is it's a high contrast, and that's what you want on your bitmaps. When you're doing a photo, that's a lot harder. Get a high contrast image like this. Hit trace. And we're going to do black and white. Bring it up so the lines are just visible. We're in there. Say preview and hit apply. Now what happens when you do, let me close this, when you do importing a bitmap, it actually makes all the way to the far right. See that tab says layers? It makes a bitmap layer. So I'm going to turn that off. And this is imported from that bitmap. When I hit, we close, go back to drawings. When I hit this, that made vectors out of that bitmap. If you leave your bitmap import on, it's kind of hard to see what you've got. Turn it back on by clicking on that light bulb. See it there? And it kind of obscures the line. So I turn it off. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do a V-bit like we did with our first sign. I have to select all these. I'm not going to edit this yet. I'm just going to see what it looks like. Click there. Tell it to do it. And then preview it. That looks pretty good to me. How about you? That's how simple it is if you have a good contrasting image. Now, you can also preview this in color. Let me show you what I mean. See where it says Toolpath color? I can make that black, red. Let's make it blue since we're doing an ocean creature. See it? And that highlights it. But that's not what it looks like when it comes out of on your machine. It won't look pretty in blue like that. So I leave it clear most of the time so that you will have an idea. So white. Does it turn white? Let's unclick it. There's black. How's that? And go back to the original. So that's what it looks like when it's machined. And that's pretty good, I think. So now I can save this creature. What am I going to save it as? Why not sea turtle? And make sure that art that you get, especially if you get it off the internet, is an art that isn't copyrighted and is in public domain. And this creature was in public domain. And make sure, especially if you're going to make these things and sell them, that you have permission to use someone's art, because otherwise you're stealing, and that's not much fun for you or for the artist, especially if you get in a legal dispute. So I'm going to save this under models, because that's where I'll look for it, and save it. Now keep in mind, this is not a 3D model that you're going to be using. This is a model that you can copy the vectors for. So if I come over here and do an edit, copy, and I was making a sign in a class. Let's see if I can find that. Open it, and it was in documents. Let's see if it's class projects. Yeah, class projects 2022. No, I don't see it. I think it gave it to the person. Let's go back to documents. Well, let's do a search. Nope. Not there. So I guess I'll start a new sign. So I'll do File, New. Those are the measurements that I want. I'll say OK. And then I'll do a File, Paste, or Edit, Paste. What happens is I've now brought that model over, and I want that model to fit in my sign. So I'm going to come down to the Transform Objects, select this, and I'm going to shrink this thing down. I'm going to leave X and Y. I don't want it 7 inches wide, I only want it 4 inches wide. When I do that, it automatically adjusts the X and the Y. I apply it, and it comes down to a small usable turtle. And now click again on it, and I can move it down. Why am I doing that? Well, because what I'm going to come up here and do is a couple things. I'm going to type my fancy sign. If you notice, it's shifting to the left. Why is that? Well, because it centers it based on where I put my center point. If I click over here on the left, you'll see it shifts over that way. Center is right here. So if I drag that center up here someplace, then it's right there. So I'm going to close that. I don't like the spacing and a few dozen other things, but that's okay. Then I'm going to draw a curved line right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from this point to the middle and back down over here. Try to get it straight. See how that line came in there to make it lined up? Now I'm going to take close this. And there's a tool right here we haven't talked about. Text on a curve. You click on it, it says select a single line of text and the curve to wrap it on. So I'm going to shift, click this. See, the text is too long for the curve. Say OK. So what it did is it shrank it down to fit that. So now I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to my centering tool. I'm going to center left to right. Then I'm going to click on the turtle and do the same thing. Now I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to use my Vcarve tool because it's easy. And sometimes I like easy. I'm going to click on this, not the line, because I don't want the line in my final work. If you do want the line in your final work, that's fine too. I'm going to tell it to carve it. And then I'm going to preview it. And there it is. My fancy sign with a turtle. And there we go. So you can have fun with your CNC doing all kinds of fun stuff. I do it because I want to learn. If I look at this sign, I go, man, that's silly. So let's come over here and fix that real quickly. If you don't know how to fix it, I'll show you. Right up here, this whole line is kind of text editing and messing with text. So I'm going to click on the third one over, edit spacing. I'm going to hit my, if I come up here and put it in between, see how it lets me bring those together so it's not so far apart. I look at any others, they look pretty good. This one's a little far. And then I close this tool, which I do by doing the selection or hit the escape key. I double click on this, tell it to do it again. And I'll reset my preview and then preview visible, and there you go. My fancy sign is a little fancier because I fixed that spacing. I would also reduce this spacing a little and that one a little bit. And now I'm going to put the color in it, make it fill black. Find dark green, dark olive, black. Right there it is. Click on it, and there's my fancy sign, even fancier. And if you look, you can still see the V grooves down in there. You turn it. See how it sloped right in there? But that's it. That's enough for one day. So have fun with your CNC, and you too can do a bitmap import. Take care. Yes, and I know I spelled fancy wrong, but that's okay. Now you can't read it at all. All done.